Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome in today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety Team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing, pause this video, go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get in today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today.
Guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety here on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. My guest today is a healer, a teacher, a transpersonal counselor. Please welcome in Harmony. I know I'm going to butcher this. I really am. Watch Kwiker. It's Kwiker. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Kwiker. My bad. We were just discussing this too. That's why I started laughing, because she, in her profile, it has it. Now seeing it. I'm so sorry. I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. I think that's just great. But anyways, why don't you tell me a little bit more? So I know you're an MPA, an LPC, an NCC, an ACS, and also a psychotherapist as well. So that's a lot of hats right there.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Thanks for having me here. Transpersonal counseling is really the essence that is the thread between all of those initials behind my name. And transpersonal counseling is really the essence of accessing our spirituality and our sense of self beyond our personal identity, beyond our thought-based reality. And so I teach at a university here, and I'm an author, and I've been a psychotherapist for a couple decades. And for me, spirituality, mental health and spirituality go hand in hand.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Spirituality is just our biggest resource, and one of the most fundamental places we arrive to when we find our health within our being.
I think a lot of people overlook it too. I think the way that spirituality is presented to a lot of people, it's, I know it was for me at first until about a year ago when I finally accepted faith and things like that, and things have just been falling into place. It was just like the way it was just presented was just like, ew, I don't want that near me, because it's like almost like a cult-like personality type thing. They're like, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do this. It's like a bunch of rules, and it felt like my mother was telling me I can't do anything, and I didn't. Me and her don't have a great history because of that reason. I never liked being told what to do, and it's what it felt like. But really, when you get into it, it's nothing like that. I think that that's the biggest misconception, is because these people that are supposedly representing these areas are just like giving off the wrong vibe, and they're just doing all these things the wrong way. They're just presenting it to people in the wrong way to make people feel like they're doing everything they're doing is wrong. Nothing you do is right, and it's like nobody wants to hear all that.
Right. Well, and what you're pointing to is the difference between religion and spirituality. So in transpersonal counseling, we're really looking at innate spirituality, the fundamental essence of a person's being. And there's actually a lot of research about how when we have a regulated nervous system, we are actually able to access those higher states of consciousness and a return to our innate spirituality.
Nice. I like that, though. I mean, I've gotten into spirituality, though. Like, I get to the more the holistic side of things and stuff like that, too. And I'm leaning more towards that as I go, because I feel like I just being drawn to it. It's just something draws me to it, And I find out, as I've been doing this show, that I'm very sensitive to energy and things like that too. And all these things I couldn't explain what they were, these phenomenons. And I was like, what are these things? And then I met somebody that had led me down this path where I'm heading now, and getting into these other topics and things. And it's interesting because it feels so right, because it feels like it's where I should be. Now it doesn't feel so weird anymore. Now it makes sense. Everything starts making sense. It all starts like clicking into place like Lego blocks as you're connecting things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when we're in a state of dysregulation, feeling anxious or angry or frozen, depressed, any one of these expressions of dysregulation, we feel disconnected from our innate spirituality, because we don't feel safe, not only in the world, but in our body. And so when we don't feel safe in our body, we don't feel connected to that higher sense of belonging and that higher sense of our own consciousness.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do people feel like that? Is it just the way, it's because the way we're raised, or it's just like, because, you don't hear enough about it. I think a lot of people, when they hear what the stuff like spirituality and all these other things. They kind of call it like, they want to put it in the hippie category type thing. It's like that whole category. But I mean, really, it may be hippie, but do they really got it? Did they really figure it out though? That's the real thing, is what people should be asking, because it makes sense. So you're not stuck on these medicated drugs and these weird side effects. And what you're doing is more natural versus these, lab created things that are going on are causing all these other problems, and a lot of times, if you look at Eastern versus Western medicine, Western, we treat the symptoms. Eastern, they treat the whole thing, the root cause of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think that so many of us, especially in this culture, are separated from nature. And really, when I'm talking about innate spirituality, I'm talking about a return to our true nature, the part of us that isn't conditioned by our trauma and our upbringing. That's just the fundamental essence of who we are, that we were born with. And it's not to say that like conceptual knowing and like knowing how to fit into social paradigms isn't also important, but it is important to know our authentic self. Like, who are we really? What do we value? What do we want? How do we feel? Just in our own being, not in these constructs that keep us betraying ourselves or trying to fit into some mold that isn't actually who we really are. And I think that that's probably why people call it hippie, because hippies are like, I don't need to fit into your social structure.
They're like, forget your structure of society. I don't need it.
Right.
So let me ask you about your books. Now I'm looking at them all. We're looking at Reveal, and then the next title is Align, and they have all things after them, but I love the names of them though. Reveal, Align, The Awakened Therapist, and then your last one, Holistic Co-regulation. I think those are all fantastic names. How did you come up with the names for these books?
Well, my first book was a memoir, Reveal, and I was really getting really vulnerable about showing myself separate from being an expert and a therapist. Like,
but
really,
I think that with that vulnerability, you're showing authenticity though, because you're showing your true self to people. So now people know who you are.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, this is why you should listen to me, because I'm being real with you. Is what I feel like when I'm getting from reading that title alone.
Yeah, and it was really vulnerable to write, and so I just called it Reveal. Like, I'm revealing myself to you. I'm showing myself to you without trying to control your perception of me. This is this is me. This is who I am. And then my second book, Align, is a self-help book, and it's Align, Living and Loving from the True Self. And it's really about how to come back to our true nature, the truth of who we are, and engage in our relationships from this way. Relationships are our biggest mirror for us to see our own shadow, our unintegrated shadow. And it's often a really challenging place for people in their own growth. Like, how do I engage in a new way in intimacy and in connection? And so Align is really about staying connected to the core of our being, the truth of who we are. And The Awakened Therapist is actually a textbook that I assign in my class. And it's really getting to the way that a therapist's state of consciousness impacts the therapeutic container. And we're not taught that in graduate school, unless you're in my class. It's rarely taught in graduate school, that when we're trying to like fix somebody, interpret them, figure them out, we actually become a threat to their nervous system. And so how to really create a container where our clients feel welcomed as they are, seen as they are, so that they can actually experience deep therapeutic healing and transformation. And then holistic co-regulation goes along with that, is for practitioners to learn how to create a container that really allows a client's nervous system to settle and feel safe, so that the deeper processing and integration can happen.
That's so cool. I like that though. Really quick though, what is Gestalt theory? I'm looking at it. I think I've heard it before, but maybe you can clear it up for me what exactly it is.
Yeah, Gestalt Therapy it's such a beautiful transpersonal and humanistic approach to psychotherapy that so many of the therapies that are popular right now really emerged from. But it was created in the 1930s, and it has Zen Buddhism and Taoism embedded in the theory, which is really unusual in psychotherapy for an evidence-based model like Gestalt. But it really is a mindfulness approach to psychotherapy, where we are present in the here and now, where relationship and contact and healing happens right here, right now. And we're two whole beings engaging authentically in the therapeutic encounter. And we create a lot of experiments to increase awareness and to have clients really process their material in a more dynamic way. It's a really profound approach to psychotherapy.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very interesting, though. I mean, even coming from the 1930s, you got to think back then
Yeah.
when he started talking about all
Oh,
that stuff. It was just like people had to be looking at him like he was crazy. Like, huh? You're doing what now? You know what I mean? Because if you look at the
so true.
history of just mental health in general from 1930 to now, like what they didn't know before that we know now is just like you look back and go, what in the hell were they thinking? But at the same time, you got to remember their resources were very limited. They didn't have the internet didn't come out till like God, when is the 90s sometimes. And even at that, you limited, you had like AOL, which basically is your only real main source of any kind of like, internet besides like, whatever web browsers you're using. Because none of us really knew the power of the internet then. And now it's to the point now that you have to fight a lot of people giving a lot of misinformation and things like that too, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen videos. You're just like rolling your eyes, like Jesus. Here we go. What are you saying now? Quit.
Well, one of the things I think that's important to recognize is that the inception of psychotherapy came from medical doctors. And so the medical model of psychotherapy pathologizes a person's mental health and state of being. And Gestalt was actually the first therapy theory that prioritized process over pathology, where we see every symptom that a client has as adaptive and wise. And we're not saying that it's wrong or an illness, that is actually something to learn from and be with and process.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different view at it too. I'm sure he got a lot of pushback at first because, now like Galileo trying to tell everybody that the sun is the center, not the earth kind of thing, like everybody looking at him weird kind of thing. And I mean, I get that. You're presenting something new. People not sure what it is exactly that you're doing, and things like that too. And it makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, and the thing too with Fritz Perls that was so beautiful, one of the creators of Gestalt, is that he didn't care if people liked him or not.
yeah.
There were people who were like, yes, we need this, and there were people that were like, no, that's crazy, and he didn't care. He just kept going along, and I think that that's important. I think especially nowadays, people, with cancel culture, people just want to be liked so much, and
Yeah. God.
everybody's not for everybody.
God, I cancel culture so bad these days. Like if you have to worry so much about what you're putting online because people don't like certain things, and all that other kind of stuff. And it's just so stupid these days,
Yeah.
like for example, TikTok's very political when it comes to that kind of thing. Like it's just so like, ugh. And it's like people ask me all the time, well, where have you been? And I'm like, if I gave you the honest answer, you'd look at me like I'm crazy. But the real thing is just like, I just don't have time for it. Like, I've got too much going on that I don't need your. It's like drama. It's like, and now that we have a social collective, it's like somebody has to start drama. So if we're not feeding drama, nobody else wants to see what's going on. It's like, yeah, I'm good. I'll stay over here while y'all have that conversation over there kind of thing. And it's so sad. It really is. Because
Yeah.
these young kids see this and then it's like, what are we teaching these younger generation that they're going to pick up later on? They think that this is how normal human interaction should go, and it's really not.
Well, and this is really what you were talking about before about being an energetically sensitive person who wants to take care of your own mental well-being. Like taking in everybody's ideas doesn't actually serve our health,
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Now we found that out real quick with a lot of these
Yeah.
people that start giving the misinformation out there. So let me ask you this though: when you start writing these books, had you known the impact it was going to have, would you change the process at all?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because the question sort of points to where I wrote the book from within myself.
Mm-hmm.
In so many ways, it was just a transmission. I didn't honestly have like full choice. It was interesting with my first book. Felt very tormented. And the
Yeah.
only reason I wrote it is because I knew I didn't have to publish it. What I needed was I needed to get the story out. I needed to see myself more clearly, honestly, to create the full picture of the journey that I'd been on to arrive into a place where I could actually embody the essence of who I am without all those patterns disrupting my well-being. And when people read my first book in particular, they come to me in tears thanking me because I'm a representation of what is actually possible.
Yeah.
That because the book is called Reveal, Embody the True Self Beyond Trauma and Conditioning. And so I really am talking about a lot of trauma of my own life path and how I've learned to integrate and to move through and metabolize that so that doesn't drive who I am in the world. And so when anytime somebody thanks me for writing that book, any part of me that feels insecure or embarrassed about sharing so much just dissolves, because if it helps one person, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought process. If you help one person, and that's the great thing with stories, people is telling their stories and things like that too. When you got ready to publish it though, were you worried about someone reacting to the book, or were you just like, oh, guess what? Here it comes. You better get ready. Band-Aid's about to come off.
I was worried about people in my life who I wrote about coming to me. I was nervous my stomach hurt I'd probably say for 6 weeks. I was so nervous, Pete. I couldn't even process the anxiety. I was so scared. I changed people's names and stuff, but whatever. Well, that's not true. I mean, some of my family don't agree with my version of events. And
they don't
that's
ever.
okay.
I mean,
We all have different versions of events. Yeah, and I'm just telling my version.
Yeah, see, I haven't started yet, but I'm going to write my own memoir as well, because I was like, people always ask about me. I don't talk a lot of my past. I think only recently I did an interview with somebody on his show called Couple Nukes. Mr. Whiskey and I were discussing it, and I think it's the deepest I've ever gotten, and it's gotten easier to talk about it. But when mine comes out, I think it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be like a lot of people are going to have a lot of disagreements about it, but it's my point of view. This is how I see it. Yeah. If you don't like my point of view, okay, that's cool. You can disagree, but get ready, because I'm going to be the type that's going to be like, well, let's go. Here we are. We're going to set it up. Like, heads up. I'm warning to everybody. Like, note to selves. Just so you know, I'm about to publish a book. If you don't like what I say, I'm going to I'll send you a separate email account. You can send all your complaints there, because this is my point of view. You're not going to change the way I feel about it, because this is what I'm seeing. And I'm telling you how I saw it through the world. Now, you may have a different perception than I do. That's okay. Well, I'm welcome to those opinions, but don't feel like you're going to come and get me to change my thought process on what I did. Because once this thing goes out, that's it. It's not coming back. I'm not pulling back anything. Yeah. Like, my Aries moon is going to show up real quick to you and tell you that I don't care. Like, I'm going to do me, and you're going to deal with it from there, And I mean, I get that though, because people see that, they're reading that, and they're going, oh my God, and people that didn't know these things too. I'm sure you got a lot of reaction from other people like, oh my God, Jesus, Harmony, is this what you dealt with? You're like, yeah, I did. I just didn't want to tell you because I didn't know how to tell you.
I mean, the other thing too is that I think sometimes it's hard for people to really receive the impact that they have on us. And that was part of my pattern, is I didn't share my pain because I didn't want to cause conflict. And so by writing this book, I was really essentially saying I actually had pain here, and we might be in conflict about that. And I'm okay with that, because I'm giving voice to my pain, and that's mine to do. And I think part of that is that people feel a lot of shame when they see the impact that they've had on people, and they want to not look anymore. But I'm here to look. I'm not here to look away.
Well, I think it's best said when Bert Kreischer, he was talking about this, like how he posts things online. I think he made a good point. What he said was that he doesn't like to read the comment section, because whenever he does, he reads the comments of anything, like anything he posts out there. He says he always goes to the negative comments. He could see 1,000 good things, but he's always looking for that one negative comment to set him off, and just kind of ruin his whole day and things like that too. And I thought it was funny, especially someone like him, and he does comedy and things like that. He puts out a lot of content talking about his own family and things like that too. I can only imagine the comments this poor guy looks at, for him to, with all his success, for him to just openly admit that, he has a lot of mental problems himself, and he goes to therapy and things, which I think is great, because I think that it's cool to see that somebody's so real and so big. Like, they have problems too. That's cool to see that. Hey, listen, Bert's not perfect. He has problems as well. At least he's not afraid to talk about it. He openly talks about it all the time too, how he does that, and his wife and him go to couples therapy and things like that too. And I think that's what draws me to him more, is that he's just so real about it, because not enough people want to talk about their mental health issues. A lot of people get worried because they're not sure how people are going to perceive, and I'm sure with your book, the same thing. If people started finding things out, we're like, holy shit, dude, what is going on here? This is, wow. And it's like, yeah, well, there it is in a nutshell for you. If I would have told you this sooner, you probably wouldn't even know what to say either way.
Yeah, for me, anytime I get any feedback of somebody who disagrees with me, I thank them for taking the time, for letting me know what's true for them. I don't need us to think the same thing. There's no part of my being or orientation in this world that needs us all to think and value the same things. I'm just going to share what I think and what I value.
All right, exactly. So do you
Yeah.
have your students read all your books yet or anything like that? Have they read your memoir?
A lot of them have, yeah. I've walked into classrooms for the very first day of class and they've already read it, and they're grateful that they get to learn from me, somebody who's like actually walked the path with integrity.
Yeah, like I said, I think that goes back to your authenticity, though, because and
Hmm.
they're like, well, because a lot of times you meet new people, somebody's going to teach you something like, okay, what does this person got? What do they really know? Kind
What
of
do
thing.
they
You know what I mean?
know?
We're
Yeah.
all thinking the same thing. You're all standoffish. Like, what do you really know? And then they
Yeah.
read that book and they're looking at you going, well, never
Oh,
mind. Okay, my questions are retracted now. Forget this converse. Never mind. Anyways. But that's so cool though, because now you're teaching them. They know the story. They're reading your books, and you're using it at the same time to teach them as well, writing these other books and things like that that could help them, and you're addressing a lot of these issues that people aren't touching, which is great because you're like, well, you know what, we don't teach us this until grad school. Well, let me teach you this now. That's
yeah.
the type of person I like. It's like, hey, listen, if you're going to give me some information ahead of time and let me know, and you're taking the time to share it with me, oh, I'm there 100%, because it's like having a mentor right there in your room with you. They're telling you
Mhm.
these things like, hey, listen, I've lived these experiences. Let me share things with you. And it's the same thing when I meet
Yeah.
new podcasters too. I do the same thing. I'm like, hey, listen, let me tell you some of the things I did so you don't have to deal with these kind of things too. And a
You're
lot of
right.
them, like, I've been there. I know what it's like. One of them in mentoring now, she freaks out a lot about things. And I'm just like, listen, take a deep breath, man. Because I've been there. I know what it's like. It's stressful at first getting this thing going. But once you
Mhm.
get going, I'm like, get ready. You're about to go on a great adventure. You're going to meet some new people along the way. You're going to do things that you probably never thought you could ever do. Like I've done a Holocaust panel survivor. I had a Holocaust survivor I was on a panel with a Holocaust survivor, and we got to ask him actual questions. Someone who's actually been there, been to Auschwitz and a couple other camps. And I was just like, it was so cool, but I would never have done it if I had not done this. Just like I'm gonna
Yeah.
get ready to start writing this book, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm not nervous at all. I think it's my Aries moon that comes through. Anybody that's really big in astrology will know what I'm referring
Mhm.
to, though. But
Yeah.
like I feel
Yeah.
like it's gonna come through real thick on people. Like, listen, I don't care what your opinion is. You're gonna either take it or leave it.
Aries moon is fierce. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think the other thing too is even in graduate school, I teach a master's program
Oh, okay, okay.
for clinical psychology. Yeah, and I have a training program for therapists.
By the way, she's flexing on us, guys. Don't worry. Don't mind Harmony.
Okay,
She's just
I'll
flexing
flex.
on us.
Okay, I'll flex. I'll tell you.
You might as well go for it. I mean, 4
But it's
books, master
interesting.
class is awesome.
The amount of therapists who come and train with me and say, I didn't learn anything in graduate school, like if they weren't in my class, right? I
Yeah.
didn't learn anything in graduate school that actually applies to psychotherapy, to actually facilitating deep healing. And my memoir, one of the reasons why I find it so relevant still is that I'm showing that healing is actually possible. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people don't know that to be true. There's like a hope that healing is possible. There's a seeking that healing is possible. And what I'm saying to therapists in particular, but also to my clients and anybody who will listen, is that the work is about awakening the inner healer. It's not about me as the expert telling you what to do or giving you spiritual dogma or ideas. That's not what spiritual healing and transformation is. It's about awakening that place inside of you that already has that wisdom, that already knows your way back to health. And I'm just going to create the conditions for clients to see themselves in such a way that they can find their way through that inner matrix and really return to their empowered place of sovereignty.
Yeah, I think it's so cool though, because people are coming to you telling you, "Hey, listen, I went to grad school, had to do all these things, and they didn't teach me anything that you're teaching
Nothing.
me." So clearly,
Yeah.
you're hitting a subject where people are like, "Well, damn, okay, never mind. This is something new," and it's so good though. It's great because like it just proves the theory that you're never too old to learn something new for anybody. Like anybody can learn anything new as you go. You know what I mean? And it's so great though, because I'm sure when they come and tell you, you're just like, "Oh, okay, well, that's great. Clearly, I'm doing something right," because they're coming back to me telling me that they like this or they haven't been a part of this class, so they don't know what to expect coming from you. And then they're like, whoa, okay, I didn't learn any of that before.
Well, and that's also why I wrote The Awakened Therapist, because the textbooks that I was assigning in my class, which is a Gestalt Therapy class, um, actually didn't teach people how to do the thing. They gave a lot of theory and ideas about the approach, but not the how. And so The Awakened Therapist is really the how to actually facilitate deep transformation.
But why do you think that is? Why do they just tell you the theories, but don't give you the kind of
I mean,
blueprints a little bit? It's weird, isn't it, though? If
I
you're going
think
to
it's
teach me a
because,
theory, at least teach me how to apply the theory to what I'm
yeah.
trying to do.
Well, I really think that all the textbooks are written by men, and I think that they're just very heady. And I wrote a book that's very intuitive and coming from an embodied place.
Yeah, no, I get it. Well, no, I get it though. If you think about it, because if you think the way that how men interact with men, we have a tower system. Like me and
Yeah,
one of my guys, Spencer
very
Holmberg, talked about this
cognitive.
on a Diva. We have that tower system.
Yeah.
Women have that like kind of
Yeah.
group mentality type thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like and it was interesting because we got in a
Self-defense.
conversation about that, because we were talking about neuroscience for an hour. That was fun, actually. Let me tell you, that was a pretty fun conversation. But she and I were talking about it, and I was like, but think about it. If you're the alpha male, you're the end all be all, and you can't talk about your feelings, I think that you're not the alpha male. And like, think about it. To me, alpha says that you're the top dog, you can do it all. But if you
Mhm.
can't hit that one area, what makes you alpha then? Because I
Yeah,
think that makes you
it's the
beta
posture.
again. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just like, and it's this sad principle that a lot of us, get into, and it's just like I don't get it. Like, it's like, let's think about this on a real level. If you can't cover all topics, then how are you technically the top dog in this
Yeah.
conversation? You can't be top dog. You don't know all this stuff. So you fall down, and then it's like, oh no, but there's so many people that buy into this crap. It's just so stupid.
Yeah.
So
It's a
I
difference.
that's why I laughed when you said the
Yeah.
men thing, because I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, the
wisdom
posturing,
mansplain.
like the posturing and the puffing up versus the like real embodied
Yeah.
strength. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. Yeah, they like to puff a lot. We always make that joke. I can't think the comedian makes that. He's like, puff out your chest a bit, and I was just
Yeah.
laughing because it's so true. It's like,
Yeah.
if you think about it, some of these dudes just come around, they're just like, they try automatically have to intimidate you in some way. And it's like, when you're not intimidated, then it's like, because you're the wiser soul. You're like, yeah, I don't think so. I'm not playing your game. It's a psychological game when it comes down to it. Like I'm going to intimidate you. So now I'm the alpha male because I'm the leader of the pack. Okay. But if you're my leader and you're an incomplete leader, if anything, your paper, if anything, because you're not covering all topics to me. And I just think that that's the mentality we need to change. Is like, we need to stop worrying about being the top dog and be more well-rounded about these things, because we don't talk about this stuff enough, and things like that too, and
Well,
it's just so funny.
Pete, I think you're actually pointing to narcissistic traits when somebody is puffing up in that way and they lack empathy and care. It's not a complete leadership.
We as men are very
It's a
narcissistic. I'd like to
dictatorship.
tell you right now, we are, just like the way we interact is. But we also have to remember though that a lot of this came from our dads and our grandfathers, and it was trickled down and things like that
I
too.
think humanizing narcissism is important, and understanding that there's a human being who adapted in this particular way is important, but not sidestepping that there's actually work to do
I think on the
and
topic of
integrate with
narcissism though
heart.
is I think the topic of narcissism is interesting because a lot of people don't understand what that is.
Yeah.
Like, you and I understand what it is, but other people don't. And I feel like it's funny to watch them when they throw it around so much. It's like, oh, this is a narcissist. But is it really though? Do you really understand the words you're using?
Mhm.
And it makes me laugh though, because you're just like, that's not what that means. Like, can you stop, please stop saying that? Not everybody is a narcissist. Like, you have to know what you're looking for. And then it also goes to a lot of people don't know what to do when you're dealing with one. Like, my ex, she's very narcissistic, man. And like, ever since starting the show to where I'm now I've have a different approach to how I handle conversations with her, because you could just watch her start getting mad because I just won't give her anything. I'll just give her like one word answers and I'll just sit there and watch her respond. And I'm on the other side of the phone just laughing because I'm like, damn, like how easy this was just to avoid a conflict instead of me getting worked up and going to a texting battle with her, just giving one word answers and not really giving much to work off of. She gets so frustrated that she just starts sending these 20 paragraphs to me. And I'm just like, okay, that's cool, and it gets her so mad because you're not doing anything other than just not really feeding into what they want. And when they know they're losing control, they go completely ape shit on you. They just start going mad, getting mad and trying to regain control. And at the end, essentially, that's what it is. They're trying to control you and try and control the situation. And once they lose that control, man, they don't like it. They are not big fans of that at all. But I think that, though, at the flip side of it, though, is that you see these people on social media post these videos claiming everybody's narcissistic, but it's like a lot of times it captures right when the other person's really upset, but they don't listen to the context. Like the video I'm thinking of, there's this video I watched the last few days. It was this girl and this guy having a disagreement. Okay. So the girl's, what she's saying to him is what you need to listen to, not what he's doing, because he's responding to what she's saying. She's making these comments to him about things that are just upsetting him even more. So now in the video, over sense, like, everybody is just watching it going, oh, well, he's the bad guy. But really, we're not listening to what she's saying, because it's always that flip side thing of trying to make them look bad, because that's what they do. They get you upset to the point where they can start using that against you. Oh, look, he's crazy now. Look, he's doing these things here. And they're videotaping the guy, but you're not listening to what she's saying, because she's like saying these things to him that are upsetting him even more, because she's just making these like constant jabs at him. And, and I think that it was interesting when you look in the comment section, everybody's taking her side. But if you're really analyzing what she's telling you or what she's saying to him, you'll see that she's the aggressor. He's the one that's the victim in the conversation versus what the video is. Because a lot of times we'll watch these videos and we're only seeing from one side of it, but we're not really paying attention to what's being said. Like you hear him saying something and you hear her saying stuff, and things like that to him. And it's so interesting, though. Now that I'm learning new things, every time I meet new people, I'm learning new stuff, and I'm looking at these things from a different light. Now you start noticing these little bit of things that are really going on a lot of times. And it's just crazy, because then, your youth are watching this, and then they're seeing this, and they're thinking that, oh, this is what it is. And we're lying to them, because essentially that's not what it is. It's the other way around. He's the victim, and she's technically the one that's the aggressor.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say about that, other than just back to your ex. I'll just say that it's really uncommon. In the research shows it's uncommon for women to be true narcissists, and there's a lot of confusion actually around other personality disorders being conflated with narcissism. Personality disorders in general have this sort of maladaptive way of looking at the world as other people need to be different so that I'm okay. And that's not only designated to a narcissist. Yeah. It's more common for a woman to have borderline personality disorder.
Maybe she does. I didn't think about that.
But it's interesting, though, because it's interesting, though, Pete, because you're saying people misuse it, and then here you are in this thing. And I think that there's just not a lot of education around personality disorders. Somebody with a mood disorder like anxiety or depression, they know that they don't feel well, and so they seek help. But a personality disorder, they think that if other people change, then I'll feel well. And that's the primary difference between the two. And so anybody who thinks if somebody else is different, then I'll be okay, likely has some form of a cluster B personality disorder. And there's more than just narcissism.
That's a good point there. I think you made a really good point. I'll have to go down that road and see what falls into that category, because I didn't even think of it done that way. I think I do agree with you, though. Personality disorders aren't talked about enough. Like, I didn't know what BPD was when I started this podcast, and I went down the road and I found a Dr. Jen. She was doing videos. She's actually an expert in BPD. That's her area. And she was doing these really educational things. I was looking at them, and I found out a lot of times that what is it? Bipolar, and it kind of goes side to side, but a lot of people misdiagnose it because they're so close together.
Not a misdiagnosis, they're actually usually dual diagnosed.
Oh, okay.
Somebody who has BPD typically often also has bipolar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and because the initials are the same, it can be very confusing.
Yeah, I did get that too. A lot of people are like, what is that, bipolar? I'm like, no, I'm talking about borderline personality disorder. And I did get that too, that they get them mixed up and things like that as well, because I thought that was very interesting, because I've had a few people on the show have had it. So you get to see like the different things that they deal with versus, what some other people may deal with.
Yeah. But back to my original point about innate spirituality, these are just defenses that a person has created to adapt to a world that isn't designed for their health and their well-being. Yeah. And so these adaptations become something that a person is hyper-identified with. And so, there's a lot of talk in the field of psychotherapy and psychology that a person will not overcome a personality disorder. And I work a lot with personality disorders, and I find that clients who show up to actually do the work, even if it's because somebody in their life told them they had to, otherwise they're going to leave them, which is typically how they find their way to therapy, that once they're really seen and welcomed accurately and honored for their innate wisdom, they will start to find their way back to health. However, the way the mind is organized, if they lose that awareness, they will fall back into those patterns quite quickly, because they're like well-worn paths of an identity. It's like the person thinks that who they are the patterns of that disorder. And that's what differentiates a mood disorder from a personality disorder also.
So let's explore that a little bit. Why do you think that people do that though? Why do you think that that's the reason why they fall back in so easily? Is it because it's hard for a lot of them? I would think maybe it's something because it's different than they're normally used to doing.
It's actually, I honestly think it comes back to the nervous system. When we are dysregulated, everything within us mobilizes for our survival. And so like the fight response of trauma response can be found in narcissism. A narcissist is constantly in fight, right? They're looking at somebody as an enemy, as somebody who's other to control and fix. Somebody with BPD is chronically in freeze. They're in that deep depression. If I don't get what I want, I'm not going to be okay. I'm only okay when I get what I want. And so I see it as the way that freeze and grief and trauma for BPD has made its way into the personality, just like lack of safety and fight made its way into the personality for narcissism. And so having a holistic approach to psychotherapy with body, mind, heart, spirit, energy all combined to support a person to returning to health, a person can actually differentiate from the thoughts that they created from that dysregulated state that made its way into their personality and start to come into more of an embodied sense of awareness. And the moment they become dysregulated again, that path of least resistance just comes online. Over time, though, resilience is defined as the amount of time it takes somebody to reconnect with themselves after they've disconnected. And so over time, they will learn how to stay connected to themselves and not go back into those patterns. But, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of awareness, a lot of practice, a lot of humility, a lot of working through the shame of what they do from a place of dysregulation.
Yeah, yeah. And then my next question though that follows up with that is that if your partner is dealing with these kind of things, what kind of support can they do? Like what do you think they should what are some good tips for them so that way they can help them along the way? Because it's not going to be a fun ride, obviously, because they're trying to, break the cycle of these habits they're doing. But what can
Yeah,
they do to better support them? Because I think a lot of times we don't cover that topic too. It's like, hey,
yeah,
listen, these guys are going this journey. This is what you can do to help them.
yeah, absolutely. And it's a great question, Pete. I think, as a psychotherapist, working with somebody with a personality disorder is very different from being in relationship with somebody with a personality disorder, especially a romantic, intimate relationship. Because in a romantic relationship, we're looking to another person to be an attachment figure for us. And that is really about being a safe place to grow and heal, where relationship is a resource, not this drain of continually
Yeah.
moving through these patterns of entanglement. And so when a person has a personality disorder and they aren't willing to look at themselves, a person who's in relationship with them actually just needs to look at themselves and start becoming a secure base for themselves. So whatever they're looking to their partner for, let's say, and for me, if I'm not now, I'm married to a lovely man who is just has the biggest, most tender heart. But in my past,
Yeah.
when I was in a relationship with a narcissist, and I'm looking to them to affirm that that what I'm saying is valid, and then they're gaslighting me. Instead of looking to them to affirm my validity, I turn towards myself and say, I know, Harmony, what you're seeing has value. What you're saying, I will always value. I will always value what you see and what you say. I don't need to get that from them, because in those moments, you can't actually get them to be a healthy attachment figure in your life. And so the work becomes about disentangling from that pattern and staying connected with yourself. And the more connected you are with yourself, maybe that relationship doesn't serve you and you become somebody who no longer wants to do this dance with this particular person. And that might be the path, or the path might be that other person wakes up to who they are and say, oh, wow, I cannot believe I've been treating you, my beloved, the person who I'm choosing to be with in this life, in this way, that I've been harming you in this way. I want to look at myself. And then maybe the relationship grows into something beautiful.
Yeah, I love the self-reflection. I think that, being more independent though, at the same time, I think that the partner needs to understand that it's a good thing that they're being self-independent. You know what I mean? They're not having to
Mhm.
latch onto you. And I love it. I think that's great. That's the way to go though, because I feel like if you can be more independent, you don't have to feel like you have to rely on everybody and things like that too, which is great, because you want somebody to have an independence. You want to be able to stand on their own if they have to. If you can't be there all the time for whatever reason, you want to make sure you don't have to worry about them, having that sense of, like, you know where I'm trying to get at with that?
Yeah, well, it's not so much about independence as much as it's self-connected.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So what happens in those moments is a person will disconnect from themselves to try to get their partner to have empathy for them when their partner doesn't have the capacity for that. And so then a person is disconnecting from themselves. What I'm saying is, if your partner has these patterns, learn how to stay connected to
Oh,
yourself, learn
okay.
how to honor yourself so that you become a safe space for yourself. And then you can see more clearly, because dysregulation and trauma response spreads, right? So if I don't have a personality disorder, but if I'm engaging in a romantic relationship with somebody who does, my nervous system will start to become dysregulated, and then I'll lose access to my higher functioning of my parietal lobe, and I'll stop seeing clearly because I'll be flooded with a survival instinct. And sometimes that survival instinct is, I need to get you to hear me so instead of tell me I'm crazy, for example, if you're relating with a narcissist. And in doing that, I'm disconnecting from myself and giving my power to that person. And so to stay connected to oneself is really where we build our resilience and build a healthy nervous system. And eventually, that's why I was saying, maybe we say, no, I'm not available to be treated this way. And that's when we leave.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. I love it. I love it when I get to learn new things. Like, I love it when I have people come on and just say, no, listen, this is what you really should, because I love it. To me, it's like, okay, cool. So now I know exactly what I'm supposed to know, and I love it. Thank you so much for telling me, like, and correcting me too, because I don't know anything. I'm not an expert of any sort. Like I said, I do this show strictly because I want to learn things as well. So it's great when I have people like yourself come on and clear things up. Like, listen, no, listen, whoa, hold on, Pete. This is what we're talking about, and that way I know better, because I love it too, because there's ways to take that. Some people are like, oh, well, they're just no, I love it. I love when somebody corrects me and let me know something, because then I learn something new, and I unlock a new thing I've learned along the way. So my follow-up question to that is, so if someone thinks they have a personality disorder, like is there something they should be watching for? Like, hey, listen, these are some things you should look out for if you start to experience these things. Like, maybe this is time to start finding some. That way they can at least get in front of it before it becomes a major problem.
Yeah, I want to answer that question, but one thing I do want to say is that the reason why it's important to differentiate between being independent and self-connected is because I want people to understand that we are wired for connection. We're social beings. Wanting connection isn't bad. It's not about that. It's about getting connection from a place of self-connection. But the thing about somebody with a personality disorder, if they're starting to even ponder if they do have one, that is amazing in and of itself, because it's actually very unusual. And it's extremely humbling. I would say that if you're looking around and all of your relationships are suffering, you're probably the common denominator. And you're like to look in the mirror of relationship and really see, what are people telling me about me, because maybe they're pointing out something that I'm unaware of, that is so disowned inside of me that I haven't looked yet. And so really listen to the people in your life, ask them questions. How have I harmed you? What would you want me to know about what it's like to be in connection with me? And really learn from them. I think that even more than doing online research.
Somebody brought it up. One of us were going to bring it up. I had a feeling one of us were going to say that, because, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like, I get the internet's there, but please stop doing that. Like stop using, what is the whole new thing? Chat GPT is my therapist. It is not, for the love of God. Please stop. I can't say that enough for you. Quit doing that, please.
Yeah.
I think you make a great point, though, is asking questions, because I think a lot of people don't ask enough questions. Like, I think that's a great idea, because then you can learn something from everybody and ask them, like, hey, can I, ask you what it is I did that harmed you, or, and start like really picking apart things. And I think a lot of people are scared to find the answer out.
Yeah.
And because that's really what it comes to, is like, you're going to ask a question. It's like, get ready for the answer. Don't get upset when they tell you something you don't like.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, some of them are going to say some things that are going to be very harmful to you. You're going to feel they're attacking you, but they're not, because you just asked them a question.
Fritz Perls, one of the creators of Gestalt Therapy, has this beautiful quote that says, we live in a glass of mirrors thinking we're looking out windows. And this really gets to the place of like, we think we're looking at other people as being who they are, but in relationship, if we're actually looking in the mirror of relationship, we stop projecting, we stop causing harm, we increase self-awareness, and we start to contact ourselves as opposed to get lost in the matrix of relationship.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect quote for this situation too. I think
Yeah.
but that, like I said, it's so fascinating to me. It's like, it's so simple, but why don't people do that though? But I do think that's the root answer a lot of times, is that you don't want to hear these things because you take them as harmful, but you just asked me a question, I'm answering you. So don't get upset with me when you don't like what I tell you.
Right. Curiosity is actually an expression of a regulated nervous system. It's just the natural place of when we are connected to ourselves and we are, regulated and we're a safe space for ourselves, we have a tendency to be more curious about other people. And so if you're not curious, if anybody listening, if you're not feeling curious and you're in that reactivity, it's just a sign to just tend to your nervous system.
Yeah.
I created these holistic nervous system regulation cards to have these like quick little like teaching
There you
pieces
go.
of practices. They just came out. They're actually on sale right now, 20% off on my website.
There you go. You guys heard her. Listen, she's telling you. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I knew it was leading us somewhere on that one. I was like, hell yeah, come on, drop the site. Drop the site. In my head, I'm thinking, drop it. Go for it. It's available.
Yeah.
I'm like, there you go, girl. Send it home for them. And it's great though, because like these are different tools they can use and things like that too. So I love it when people plug that kind of stuff like this. And I just came with these new things, and that's the whole point of the show, is I bring you guys in here. I get to learn new things. You guys get to tell us new things. Hey, listen, I got some new tools for y'all to use. If this is something that's fitting in the area you're feeling, like you like this, you want to try this, here's some ways to do. I love it. I love when people bring out different things like that and they say, hey, listen, we can come check it out. It's on my website. Because I'm like, yeah, go ahead, definitely agree. Like if you got some kind of toolkit out there or something we can use, like, hook us up, let us know, because like we all need help these days, man. It's hard to figure out where it's at.
Yeah, not only that, Pete, when we are dysregulated, it can be hard to find our way back on our own. And that's actually why I made a card. So you just have to pull one, and right before I got on this call with you, my dad actually texted me. He's a doctor. He's 80 years old. And I sent him a pack of these cards and he texted me a picture. He's like, I love having this daily practice. Thank you. And so you're never too old to learn.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. What kind of doctor is he? Is he just like general medicine?
He's an osteopath. He's a holistic physician.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because you were born into the family. Yep. Okay. Never mind. I answered my own question there. Well, it's so cool though, because you had the support of your dad though, now going through the whole journey of things too, and he could teach you things. You can ask him questions, and that had to be great though, as you're getting into it more and more. You're like, hey, Dad, I got a question for you, and then just kind of pick his brain a little bit, which is really great though. It's like having your own what do you call it, WebMD right there for you, except for it's actual information. It's not stuff people make up, or like Wikipedia where it's completely factual based, unfactual based,
Well, and not only that, we talk every Sunday. We've talked every Sunday for over 20 years, and we've developed a really deep relationship, and it's synergistic. He asks me questions, and he wants to learn from me also, and that's
awesome.
I mean, it's really a beautiful relationship. I love that.
That's to feel great though when he asks you questions, even though he's been doing it longer than you, and he's like, hey, let me ask you something, and you're like, oh yeah, go ahead, please do.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, Harmony, as we start getting ready to start winding down this episode, we're at the all important part of where I ask very important questions that I feel that we all need to know. Okay. My first question is actually credited to a friend of mine. She runs a podcast, The Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. When me and her interviewed, she asked me a very unique question. She said to me, Pete, if your mental health had a song, what would your song be? So my question to you, Harmony, is if your mental health had a song, what would your song be? Everybody loves this question too, by the way.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, it would be Medicine Woman by Rising Appalachia.
There you go. We had what is it? We had the globally published author, Dr. Vet this morning. What did she say? She said, God, I can't remember what her question. She had a good answer too, but so far the top answer was Susan still came in with. She said Rage Against the Machine. I was laughing hysterically because she's like, Pete, you're gonna laugh at me when I respond to this. I said, why? She goes, because it's Rage Against the Machine. I'm like, okay, all right, girl, let's see where we're going with that one. So but that's it's always interesting to ask me because music is a very big importance for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us are always listening to something, you know, and things like that too. So it's great to get different people's interesting answers to what they say. So my next question for you, and the whole point of this podcast is if you could break the stigma of mental health, like anything you hear that absolutely drives you absolutely nuts, and you're just gonna go like, hey, listen, can you just stop? Or, you know, like, hey, stupid, quit. What would that be?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's the human condition to have meaning making and a nervous system. Like that's just part of our design. And the more you resist your inner experience, the more you're going to cause yourself harm, where you're no longer a safe space for yourself and you sort of perpetuate that experience of feeling off balance and small and powerless and angsty and anxious and sad and alone in the world. And the more you can just turn towards yourself and validate everything that you feel, not your stories and your meaning making are likely not true, but whatever is beneath that holds a wisdom that really deserves a lot of tenderness and a lot of just holding and awareness.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Harmony, thank you so much for coming in. If anybody wants to reach out to you, what would you say is the best source? I know we have social medias, you have your website. Where do you feel like the best source to get you is? Your website or your social medias? Where do you prefer people to reach out?
Yeah, awakenedtherapist.com is my website. Everything is there. You know, I have a podcast called The Awakened Therapist. And
There you go, guys. She's got a podcast too. I love it. See, I was going to get to that question. I didn't even ask you that. I didn't think about that honestly, but that's great though. I was thinking like, man, she's got to do a podcast. You know,
you know, coming up in September, I'm actually going to start doing live therapy demos on my podcast. They're going to start rolling
there you
out.
Go. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. So where can we see those though? Because I'm really interested actually, to be honest.
Yeah. It's just all the audio files. So it's not video. So it's on my podcast, The Awakened Therapist. The full episodes are on Patreon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So only part of the episodes will stream everywhere.
Well, I gotta get that complete. No, you gotta save that. Gotta save the goodies for Patreon. I get it. That makes sense. I mean, it's perfect. It makes perfect sense. I get that completely. That's awesome, though. That's so great to hear, though. And you know, and when do you drop weekly episodes or is it bi-weekly?
Yep. Weekly, sometimes twice a week. I do a lot of bonus episodes, like small little mini 15-minute episodes of just me doing a teaching piece about somatic intelligence or subtle energy or spirituality and healing. Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you really quick before we start wrapping up completely. How hard was it when you got in the beginning? Did you have to learn everything yourself, or did you have somebody that helped you along the way?
Well, my husband is a former software engineer.
Oh, okay.
And so he's a genius. and you know, I'm starting a school, and so he helped me set up my online system for my school and my podcast. And you know, I have a lot of friends who are podcasters, and
awesome.
Some of them gave me advice that I actually didn't use, particularly because I know a lot of podcasters use other platforms to host their podcast and pay them monthly, and it's so easy to do on your own website. I thought it was easy. I hired an editor though. I'll say that too.
Yeah. You see, listen, we all can't have the software husband, okay? Well, Harmony, once again, thank you so much for being here on Pete vs. Anxiety. Appreciate you coming in. Guys, go check her out. Podcasts, like you said, weekly, sometimes more than weekly. You know, she's got all those great stuff coming up. If you let me know when you start doing the little Patreon classes, I'll definitely gladly post them out there for you. Let people know where to find them and things like that too, because I'm interested myself. Guys, go follow her Patreon. You know, go check it out, everything like that too. It's like she said, she's got some great stuff coming down the line and things like that. And you guys, and you know, I'm Pete vs. Anxiety. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. Yep, I'm everywhere. On Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to kind somebody. One kind act you can do can save someone's life, or hell, you can save their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety, signing off saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?